Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to my wife who's here tonight and even joined me on some of my personal travel. To my family for giving me the opportunity to even be able to farm. To the William Buckland Foundation for being my investor. And most importantly to Nuffield. What a community to be engaged in. I really am so thankful for the network that I've been brought into. I think Jody, I'll thank you to Jody and Nicola and to the leadership from Nuffield for getting our scholarship in 2019 and then rolling into a lot of screens was challenging, but what you guys did in such trying times that we're all going through, we still got so much out of it. And for being able to have a Nuffield for 2 years is pretty special, and not many people will be able to say that. But I think you got one thing wrong. I think you should have the hype man for the afternoon shift, Jared Amory. But so my name is Johnny Gardner. I am Managing Director of a self-replacing and cattle trading operation in southwest Victoria. We have a team of 3 people and run about 10,000 breeding ewes. Take a couple of thousand off what I've said before, but 10,000 breeding ewes, and we trade 200 to 600 steers annually. We also have a tourism business, which is self-contained Airbnb called Stonycroft Cottage. And my topic today is looking at emissions reduction and productivity gains in the Australian lamb industry. We get most of our protein-rich and fat-rich foods from animal farming. And animal farming is arguably the most destructive of all industries on earth. Have you heard something like this of late? This is a quote from the New York Times. And it feels like meat production is getting a lot of pressure throughout the world at the moment. Here's Max, my number 1 dog from home, just giving you a visual of that pressure. After extensive travel going around the world, only getting back a couple of weeks ago and being away from farm for 4 months, almost straight, I really do commend our on-farm team to keeping everything going and probably doing a better job than I have. But it's been fascinating seeing such incredible producers and people within the agriculture industry, and especially around the world, that are doing incredible things that gives me a lot of hope and positivity around what we actually are producing. So Howard Marks is an infamous investor and found himself consistently saying the most important thing is, in his book by the same title, he reflects that there is no one most important thing. And when it comes to my topic today, it really felt like that. It's interesting, investing, like farming, a complex system with many variables can achieve an outcome. On top of that, you just throw in Mother Nature. I'll focus on emissions reduction, people and the culture of change, or people and data for good, and business models and supply chains. There are no one silver bullets when it comes to emissions reduction. And currently the greenhouse gas emissions, Australia is sitting at 13%, and 68% of that is from animal agriculture. So we do have our challenges. We're breaking it into methane, nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide. Within the Australian system, agricultural system, our biggest challenge is methane. But after going to New Zealand and talking to Professor Derek Moat from Lincoln University on some of the statistics from New Zealand, and looking at the screen, don't focus on the detail because it's hard to read, but just on the trends. He outlined some of the positivities around where our industries come from. So within the New Zealand industry, they've gone from 100% to 130% for lambing rates, and gone from 190 grams to 290 grams a day growth rates over the last 20 years, this amounting to a 40% reduction in CO2 equivalent of kilogram per output. So these are actually very similar numbers to Australia and show that striving for efficiency over scale is our first step. To take this further, after going through New Zealand and Ireland, and both having trials on the ground, looking at having 30 to 40% of clover content in your pastures, reduces your lamb to finished weight by up to 40 days. This is huge on profitability and efficiency in reducing methane emittance per kilogram of output. I also talked to, after visiting and being reiterated by New Zealand, is talking to this bottom graph here, where we have average pasture cover in the red and stocking rate in the blue. And yes, these are very simple or basic practices, but doing this in our Australian environment where there is variability and will become more continuously variable going forward, this is key to having an agile, grass-driven business where you can utilise things like silage cut or trade cattle to try and utilise that top of the spring between the red and the blue, and then try and cut and carry your surplus grass through into where your stocking rate increases over your summer period. So also talking to emissions, I'll be here all day if I was going to go through everything, but to quickly brush over what is complementary practices like tree plantation, soil sequestration, biodiversity, renewables, genetics, all these can be started to accumulate data around them to start improving, and also so there's no one most important thing. What is a global scramble around the world for reducing emissions? I've seen a real contrast between on the ground and government policy from all around the world. From visiting countries like with a stronger heavy hand, like Denmark, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, all having very much the stick approach when it comes to emissions reduction, versus your market-driven approach from Australia and the US with things like MLA, carbon neutrality 2030, and in the US, the incentivised subsidy system with around $18 billion being allocated to environmentally positive practices. A deeper dive into this was seen when arriving in the Netherlands. I went and saw a dairy farmer who was quite frustrated recently being after a lot of Europe driving their tractors into urban areas, which you would have seen on the news. He was also very frustrated with the government releasing a map stating that they would have to reduce their nitrous oxide emittance by up to 70% by 2030. This is a staggering number, and at face value, I'd probably be jumping into a tractor and driving into Parliament as well. But with a deeper dive into it and chatting with him, he was amidst a 5-year emissions reduction project and achieving pretty amazing things. I said, do you think you'll be able to achieve this? And with a slight sigh, he actually said, yes, I reckon we'll go pretty close. So it just reiterated that difference between the messaging that government policy can actually do with on the ground and celebrating the innovation that is happening. He had things like robots, which you can see on the screen, robots for almost everything, even cleaning up all the slurry. He had a new machine that was going to capture the nitrous oxide and ammonia and actually turn it into a liquid and then put it back into the top 10 centimetres of their soil across the farm. All very cool innovations. I could talk emissions for days, but if we wouldn't all be here if it wasn't for the people. So I love this quote that captures management style of one of the best CEOs from the 60s, Ken Iverson. The job of a manager is to help people accomplish extraordinary things and that means shaping a work environment that stimulates people to explore their own potential. When travelling through New Zealand, I saw a guy called Rhys Roberts, the CEO of Aligned Farms, who actually was the recipient of a Xander McDonald Award, having been mentioned before. He's implementing a self-management roster system at their dairy with an adaptable in-motion calendar for opting in for their staff. This is incredible empowerment for the employees and juggling family commitments and providing optionality. And data-driven decisions like this and radical transparency are absolutely key for continuously progressive businesses. By implementing a feedback program also on their farm called Kind, they had a deeper dive into the data during COVID, allowed leadership to identify that anxieties had lifted, and it was underlyingly with their foreign workers and was easily resolved by putting out a weekly report giving the new government restrictions. This is an incredible opportunity to use data for good around our people within our businesses. And as a result, they went further than this and were getting things like health checks, understanding dietary requirement or understanding people's diets, understanding how their involvement in the community. And as a result of this, they'd gone further and started a market garden to provide healthy veggie boxes and supply them to staff on a weekly basis. What an example of building feedback loops for good, accompanied with the willingness to listen, innovate, and implement change. So just to make sure you're still awake, we'll just do a little exercise that you'll think through and think of the answer to yourselves. So what is the cost of a lamb, given that the total cost of a ewe and a lamb is $1.10, and a ewe costs $1 more than the lamb? So Danny Kahneman here wrote an incredible book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Here he talks of system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. In that, system 1 is an intuitive, reactionary 10 cents, if someone got that, versus the system 2 thinking, which is a deeper and assesses the different outcomes. 5 cents, the actual answer. With building great businesses, we need diverse, deep decision-making. And to solve complex, adaptive problems like farming, I take the phrase, a whole is greater than its parts, meaning a number of people solving a problem will do better than the individual. Frank Vollerman from Vollerman Dairies in the US has had incredible growth over the last 30 years, going from 50 cows to 5,000. After chatting with Frank, he outlined one of the key attributes for building a great business is the team of specialists around you. Building long-term growth and having specialist team around you with aligned values is the key to build a diverse decision toolkit. Some other things that they do, just to say how good their business is, they educate their people, they provide free milk to their staff, whilst having a versatile workplace where they can move people around. Their sustainability side of things, they have cycled water to have no waste. They have biodigesters to supply houses with energy. Effluent that goes onto the crops with no till. Also with sandier soils, input cover crops and nutrient management plans. Around the animals, they've open dairy to the public to show true transparency, and multiple vets on site to support animal wellbeing and animal performance recording. All this outlining again that there's no one most important thing, and having balanced views across people, animals, environment and financials is key. So the concept of point of difference may come from how we run our businesses rather than rather than the product. Thinking of this differently and travelling around the world, I got exposed to, or in America, to Tyson Foods. And by looking at supply chains, rather than looking at the end product, it's actually there's been a change in the sustainability drive for how we actually do things on farm and building data around that to then provide back to these businesses to then align with their supply chains. Looking at, after talking to the sustainability manager from Tyson Foods, he explained that they've got a program where they're linking in with 16,000 individual farms, trying to collect data and influence practice change directly on farm. This is also seen with JBS announcing they're working towards carbon neutrality by 2040, and the majority of the emissions within their supply chain coming from on-farm. Again, seeing pull through the supply chain where processors are looking to identify and support practice change directly on-farm. This more collaborative approach should motivate us all to start collecting data and try to align our businesses into audit programs. So let's take a moment just to celebrate the good things that Australia are doing. After travelling around the world, it's amazing to see the market access that we have, the great products and high quality reputation that we have around the world. We have substantial levy base compared to other people around the world. Places like Ireland with having an average flock size of 75 ewes provides a little bit of a difference of R&D input. Consistent supply chain on farm and welfare practices, and diverse production systems across Australia. But the things that we can work on are striving for efficiency over scale and carbon neutrality backed by data. Becoming learning machines with high quality people with innovative mindsets, teaching people what not to do but how to think. Understanding that true leadership needs consultation to ensure buy-in from industry. Also that there will always be challenges and that the best innovators that will continue to thrive. Having balanced business focus around people, environment and financials underpinned by data, and integrated cohesive supply chains backed by data will provide market access. This is just a takeaway of what we're going to try and implement on our farm. And again, very wordy, but there's a lot of things to do. So improve clover to 30 to 40% across the farm. People empowerment, build autonomy and continuous education for our team. Support local education and innovation in Hamilton. Support diverse exposure for myself and our team, reiterated by my GFP group and learnings. Achieve carbon dioxide neutrality for South Macandrew with renewables, and within methane, focus on key production KPIs to achieve climate efficient production with things around growth rates, turn-off weight, fertility and stocking rate. There is a great future ahead for the Australian lamb industry, and I look forward to being a part of it. Thank you.